like the lads, I was also teaching for 30-something years, and as a primary teacher, and by a kind of a strange series of events, I ended up as Cork Senior Hurling Manager and then Limerick Senior Hurling Manager. I suppose my whole interest in all this started about 20 years ago when Pat Daly and Paddy Butler and Eamon Ryan and those were spearheading this new initiative on coaching and you know, running foundation courses to have some kind of best practice for coaches. And I was involved at that stage as a kind of a trainee or a helper, or you know, running those courses. And you know, that initiative did much to help clubs to attract new people to get involved and to give, particularly parents coming in, to give them survival skills, that at least they had, as I said, survival skills. They were able to run their coaching course or run their training sessions, have a few drills, and you know, survive, we'll say, maybe in a process that they weren't that used to. And there was a theory session at the end of most of these courses for the coaches, and I often facilitated those theory sessions. And one of the questions I was always asked, it was actually the question I was always asked, was, what did Johnny Clifford say? What did Christy Ring say? What did Father Cannon O'Brien say in the dressing room? What did all the coaches that I had worked under, what did they say that kind of turned maybe normal human beings into heroes? And you know, looking back at it, everybody was looking for the magic formula. What did somebody say that you know, made these players be so good? And I couldn't think of anything, usually. And like the lad said, I sat there many years later saying, I don't remember. I was honoured enough to be inside in the dressing room where Christy Ring, the greatest hurler we were told in Cork of all time, stood, spoke to us. He was a selector in the Cork 3 in a row team of 76, 77, 78. I was lucky to be part of that setup, and I couldn't remember anything he said. I couldn't remember anything Father O'Brien said. I couldn't remember anything any of them said. And strangely enough, with the lads finishing up with their quote from Mark Twain, I have written down here, we're much more likely to remember how somebody made us feel. One of the very few memories I have of what was said in the dressing room comes from the 1980, when I was playing, gross overstatement by the way, on the Cork football team, the National League final. And we were playing the great Kerry team of that period, probably the greatest team that ever played football, certainly the greatest team that I ever saw. And on that particular day, I was playing full forward, marking John O'Keefe, who was the prince of fullbacks at the time, and Billy Morgan, the Cork trainer at the time, and coach and player, sat me down on the Tuesday night in the dressing room and said, look, this is what I want you to do. Now, I came away that day saying, you know, maybe I am as good as John O'Keefe. Now, again, that's a gross overstatement, and anybody who saw John O'Keefe playing and saw me playing know that he was senior, I was junior. But anyway, I kind of came away that day saying, yeah, maybe I am as good as him. But that's then. We're talking about now. And the days of my limited experience at intercounty level wasn't or aren't or didn't ever have the breaking the hurley on the table syndrome, or the, you know, shouting and roaring and all the rest of it. We're gone from that. We're now entering a very new era with totally different priorities, particularly at the level we're talking about here, at child level. I was delighted when I was asked to speak by Liberty Insurance, and I was also more delighted because I haven't been at this level for a while, at the level of child training. And I was delighted when I spoke to Peter of this parish, to Peter Horgan, and to Paddy Butler, briefly on the phone to say, look, you know, where are we at GAA-wise, where are we at coaching-wise and child-wise? And, you know, I had a brief conversation with him, and it was a brief conversation, but I was absolutely thrilled to realise that we're now trying to go a different route. a route I totally believe in. I was very hesitant during my teaching career to get involved in Sciana Skull and club teams because deep down inside me, I just didn't believe in this win-at-all-cost philosophy. I've never believed in it. Now, I have stuff written here, so I'll stay with it a while. Because at this stage, like, we're talking about children. We're talking about getting children as young as 4 or 5. Now, my wife warned me, don't get into humour, because she said, you can't do humour, you're no good at doing humour. But I have a bit of humour down here, something I read on a book, and I won't tell her, I hope none of you meet her and tell her either, that sometimes you're dealing with, and I found out this when I went to teach in a little primary school in Kilbarry a number of years back out near GAA, and I was going back from, I've been in a city school for most of my life. I was going back to a place that was very rural and very, not isolated, but just rural. And everybody in this schoolyard at the same time, not different school breaks because of numbers and so on, and seeing children there who are really children, who are playing children's games, who are sitting down having tea parties and with imaginary teacups and so on, and so whose the world they were in was the world of, this is humour number one, you can't baptise cats. I remember one day one of the kids coming in and saying, "Sir, I found out last night you can't baptise cats." Or another fella saying to me, a little girl saying to me, "Don't ever have an argument with your sister and have your mum comb your hair at the same time. Not a good idea." or in an argument, don't hit back because the second person always gets caught. So, like, we're talking about kids and that a kid's world. We're talking about kids' world. We were for so long trying to put adult values and the way we grew up ourselves and the way we were treated ourselves on the children. So that whole 20 years ago question is now gone. This whole thing of it being down to the dressing room on the day of a match or just the best 15 being out there at our level is gone. So what do we now want? We want to introduce our children to Gaelic games. We want them to play Gaelic games. We want the majority to play the game, not just the elite. We want them to learn new skills. We want them to come to training and enjoy each and every session. We want them to feel wanted and respected. We want them to improve. I'm really saying what the lad said. We want them to play games at every session. We want them to be on teams where winning is not the primary concern. We want them to choose to continue playing when they get to the youth stage. The reality is that the majority of children want to play and have fun. And so coaching with excessive emphasis on the technical requirements of the game tends to lessen motivation and enjoyment. The unasked for teaching tends to make people emotionally crippled. In my work with inter-county teams, I almost always took the lead from the players. At the child level, I want to be the conduit for emotional, technical and physical development. And again, personally, my own journey kind of getting to terms with this started maybe with a course I did in something totally unrelated to sport, again about 20 years ago. I then started reading stuff by, I suppose we call them New Age gurus like Deepak Chopra and Anthony Robbins and Anthony DeMello and Stephen Covey and Tony Quinn at the time. And at the time, I had a fairly, like a lot of us still have, a fairly skewed idea of what success was. What is success? I was lucky enough at the time, as a lot of you maybe sitting down there, where I played a lot. I was a good player at the time, whatever that means. I was good by the standards of then. I was able to get on teams. But now I saw that we really want to be introducing words like goodness and holistic and inclusiveness. And I would say the same about my school time as I said a while ago. This win at all cost philosophy just has to go. So the title of what I'm supposed to talk about, or what I am talking about, was supposed to be managing or getting the best from your children or adults. Fundamentals are the same. So what are the fundamentals? Well, for me, the fundamentals are exactly like the lads were saying. I want to create an environment that will allow the people within my remit or my charge that they'll blossom. I want to create that environment where they will find themselves, learn themselves, make progress themselves. And whether it's hurling, football, camogie, ladies football, rounders, handball, principles are the same. It's about participation, it's about skill learning, it's about fun. But of course, the lessons we might really be endeavouring to impart are ones of inclusiveness, safety, respect, patience, tolerance, cooperation. It might seem like a tall order. I left the school I was in for a long number of years and went to teach, as I said, in a place called Kilbarry. Now, at the time when I went to Kilbarry, I wrote a piece because I just couldn't believe that the principles that we're now trying to push forward were alive in this yard on school time. And I wrote this, and I think this is where it's at. I didn't actually believe this enough until I saw it in action. Here is a little country school, and coming in the front gate here, the school is like a cottage over there. There's a tarmac yard it's about 60 metres long, and there's a wall here and a wall here, and there's a river inside there, and there's a field there, and the match went across the yard, 25 metres maybe. The ball could go anywhere this way or this way, but it really didn't. It stayed within 20 metres. It stayed within 25 metres square. But I was fascinated by this game. I can't lay claim to have taught the children any of the values or skills they so easily use in this game. Their homes have to take most of the credit. As in all walks of life, there's a hierarchy in this schoolyard. The sixth class are at the head. The teams are chosen by the leaders. This is every school break now most of the time. As in real life, you can only play in the big game when you're in the master's room and are strong and knowledgeable enough to be able to survive in this football life maelstrom. Equality and inclusions are given. If you've made it to fourth class, you're in the game, if you want to be. Some don't, of course. So the ball is thrown in and the game begins. As in life, this game is kind of dominated by the strong, but mistakes are rarely, if ever commented on. Stray passes seldom draw any comment either. Some children eat their lunch while participating in the game, popping in and out of the classroom to replenish supplies. No comment ever comes from anybody here either. Individual toilet breaks are taken on a need basis, and the game carries on. This is absolute fact. I was so taken at the time, I said I have to kind of put this down on paper because this is absolutely fact. The ball goes into the stream many times because the wall is quite low. Ball goes into the stream. Isn't life like that? How often do we stray off course and in some instances never return? If the current is strong and the ball is carried downstream, a few of the children will help to retrieve it. The game carries on when everybody's ready. The playing area is the entire length of the yard, but that doesn't preclude any of the other children from creating their own entertainment up and down the same space. There might be a game of rounders going on across the football game. A game of chasing is always a possibility, as are the many infant games. Don't forget this is all in the one area. Yes, indeed, tolerance and inclusion are alive in this yard. When there's an injury, everybody stops, and genuine concern is shown for the injured. Respect is paramount. One can opt out or in at any stage for any reason. If you're playing, you're playing. If you're not, you're not. There rarely, if ever, is anger in this sacred place. The game is played within the rules, but being less than good is always tolerated. The scores some days come fast and furious. The standard is high, and very high a lot of the time. Then skull is called, and the game ends immediately. None of your next score stuff. Everybody leaves and heads for the classroom. The games are over. There's rarely, if ever, talk of the score or who won or lost. This is sport in the real sense. Adults have much to learn from this daily unscripted drama. As Van Morrison wrote, wouldn't it be great if there were always days like this? That is an absolute true story, and every day. I was flummoxed and flabbergasted myself that there was never a question of who scored the best score, who won, what was the score going in, because we might carry on that game again. Never. It was proof positive to me that they were playing in the very best sense of what we should be aiming to do. The results didn't matter. The result-driven culture, in my estimation, I'm speaking, having had a little conversation with, as I said, Paddy and Peter. Nothing else. I'm not promoting what's happening. I'm speaking from inside myself about what I feel. Goodness, including all the words like, as I said, safety and respect and patience and all, is now at the centre. As a coach, am I treating the children or adults in my care with respect? Am I treating them all fairly? Am I talking to the children at their level? Am I respectful to the opposition when we play other clubs? Have I accepted that I need to change my always winning mentality to the play, joy, and enjoy, and hopefully improve mentality? The win at all costs mentality is not part of the child's world, and it shouldn't be anymore. Can I be the leader who makes change happen? A true leader, I read somewhere recently, is someone who inspires others to become more of who they are. I think there's a lot in that. What do I want to do? I want to facilitate people becoming, that's what I want to do. I want to facilitate that. And in Cork for a while, I got a lot of criticism. There was a kind of it borders on ridiculous, but there was a kind of a feeling there that when I was manager of the team, the players were in charge. Jesus, if I'm the boss of the company and the workers are doing all the work and I'm taking the glory, I've got it made. Because I was taking the glory, like when we were winning and we were successful, I was the manager, so I was getting a lot of that glory. But they were doing all the work. They were deciding, with me and with the management, how we played, what our tactics should be on the day. A win-win situation. I just can't see if as I said, if my staff or my workers are doing without me telling them, sure, I'm absolutely win-win. The child coach should only be there really to quicken up the learning. Or the child's coach, not the child coach. The fundamentals are the same though, whether it's the adult team or the youth team or the child team. The fundamentals being we're creating the environment. That's where it's at. As the leader of the group, I set the tone in how I behave, in how I speak, in how I interact, in how I talk to people, in how I accept victory, in how I accept loss. At the child level, I want to encourage good sportsmanship. The good news is that I'm at the last page. What's good sportsmanship? It's when teammates, opponents, coaches and officials treat others with respect. Children learn the basics of sportsmanship from the adults in their lives, especially their parents and their coaches. Children who see adults behaving in a sportsmanlike way gradually come to understand that the real winners, again, what you were saying, lads, what I do, how I live my life, not what I say, that's smoke. I remember having an argument last year with a player who was telling me one thing, but his actions were telling me something else. Now, he wasn't smart enough to see that I was actually interpreting what he was doing, and he didn't accept that he wasn't pulling the wool over my eyes, because I was reading his body language and I was reading what he was doing rather than reading his words. Words are only smoke, really. You can say what you want, but what you do is what it's about. Children who see adults behaving as sportsmanlike are, more likely to behave in that way. The bar is being set very high, and it is there's no doubt about that. We're endeavouring to set a very high bar. And as I think it was Jody said it, this is not easy, to go from the mentality of winning and the club ethos of winning and the adult ethos of winning, and you're now trying to, because you're now actually you're going to be working at a lower base because you want to include the less able. So is that going to be accepted within your club? I listened last Saturday to the piece that Sports News Talk did with Pat Daly and George O'Connor and Gizzy Ling, I think. And I was, impressed to hear them, giving this message like that this is the way forward, because it is the way forward as far as I'm concerned. We're endeavouring to create conditions that might seem almost unachievable. At child level, we're trying to change from a win at all costs to a much more holistic approach. At adult level, the targets are different, but how we achieve them, in my estimation, is fairly similar. The holistic approach works just as well there. In my limited experience at child or adult level, I know that the fundamentals that I've already outlined are the same. And I also know beyond doubt that they work. So just to sum up, in both adult and child level, what do I want to do? I want to create the atmosphere that's safe, inclusive, respectful, tolerant, cooperative, welcoming environment, and wait for great things to happen. Thank you. And the green light didn't come on, which means I didn't go over time. If anybody wants, is that okay, Peter, if anybody wants to ask a question? Or I'm sorry now if I bored you for too long, but I said stay up there for as long as possible, so. No? Tea time? Yeah?
You mentioned about Anthony Mello, not a GA person. Would just be interested to know what you learned from that and what difference it made to their coaching.
Yeah, the likes of Anthony de Mello or Stephen Covey or any of those. Like, I was actually amazed as, an adult in my late 30s to kind of, and I read a lot of books in this field, to see that they were all promoting the same thing. They were all promoting inclusiveness and decency and honesty. And like, I was coming from a place where, as a lot of you, I've no doubt, were coming from where you absolutely loaded the fellow from the next parish, that jersey that they wore, like, and what they stood for, and that you did anything you could to make sure you beat them, and that whatever it took, that you did it. And so, listening to or reading, Anthony de Mello or any of the other people I mentioned, they were all promoting the same kind of set of values, that goodness and I suppose inclusiveness and tolerance were all way more important. So that's really what I'm saying, like that when I go into a dressing room with a group of people, I want them to feel included. And at the end of this year, I got a lot of very complimentary emails from players that I had in Limerick, and the thread coming through them all was, we liked coming to training. Now, I'm sure if you were the last sub and you didn't get game time, maybe you had a slightly different view, but generally, that was the thread. We liked coming to training. We liked, there was like the lad said, there was a sense of fun there. There was a sense of, it's obviously business, and it's a cutthroat business at that level. But I last night, one of the people presenting said, speaking about Eamon Ryan and Juliet Murphy saying that Eamon is part of us. He's not him and us. So I think that's key, really, that it needs to be us working together rather than me dictating or,
John, I'd agree with your set of values, but what I'd like to know, two sets of values, the ones you talk about and I agree with, and maybe the set of values that you're rejecting, okay? Now, of the two, which are you more likely to win an All-Ireland with?
Well, I suppose we're talking about...
And talk about adult level, sorry.
Well, I can only look at my own experience, and I was involved with Cork for 2 years, and we won an All-Ireland and 2 Munster championships. I was involved with Limerick for 2 years, we won a Munster championship. So I suppose for me, my own style of management had those results. So I am, like I said there, I am very sure that that style of management does work. Now, the other style of management works as well. But we're here talking about children. You know, so like, I don't see the other style of management having anything to do with keeping children playing and it being fun. The style of management that's being promoted now by both Paddy and Jodie, and I know by the GAA in general at child level, is that we include as many people as possible, we have fun with them, we tolerate the less able, we make it fun, we play games, and we try and keep as many people playing until it comes to decision time, or until it comes to competition time. Okay?
Sorry, John, we're way back here. Without giving us too many secrets to your success, can you tell us the types of things you actually do with teams and groups to foster that sense of fun and that they love coming to training? Like, what are the actual things you might do with a group to facilitate that?
I don't think there's anything in particular, you know, other than I think you have to create the atmosphere, you know, and like as the manager or the boss of the team, I suppose where you're at yourself, within yourself, is very important. And it's not like, you know, it's not that I'd sit down at home before training and say, okay, this is what I need to do tonight. Nothing to do with that. This is, what tone do I set in the dressing room? What atmosphere do I set with the people I'm working with? How do I treat them? How do I talk to the kids or the adults? Do I listen to them? We don't listen, like, you know, I think that's well accepted. We're waiting to get on to what we want to say ourselves, no matter what the other person is saying. So it's not that I don't have a package. I can just present myself as who I am, and I think that's, if that's not your mentality, you need to know. Very difficult, I've no doubt it's very difficult. If you're the win-it-all cost philosophy, or that's your philosophy, or if you're the fellow who likes to drive it on, or the girl who likes to drive it on, it's difficult to pull back from that. And I know it's also difficult for clubs who want to win to now accept that maybe that's not the right route to be going. Is it coffee time, Peter? Lads, thanks very... Okay. Last one, so...
Sorry, I just wanted to ask, why has it always been just 2 years? Just that there's always been the room for improvement.
You get out when you're on top, I think. I suppose it probably deep down in me somewhere it comes back to this, what we're now promoting. I'm really not in the win-it-all cost mentality, and that you need a certain madness, I think, to be an inter-county manager. I'm not sure whether I have that madness inside me. And you need, you know, to be any manager, Jesus, like, you're pushing something, you're trying to keep it moving, at times like, lots of it I don't like. Like, I hate letting fellas off panels. I hate, you know, you're giving out the championship team and there are 18 fellas who think they have a realistic chance and you have to tell 3 of them they're not actually going to start today. And, you know, you have fellas who are bursting their gut and maybe have nearly come on to play a part in a championship game, and the next thing they don't get on, and all that stuff I don't particularly, it doesn't do anything for me. Like, I'm finished now anyway. All right, go to meet them. Thanks very much.